there, weavers. Welcome back. This is Grace with Tangled Webs Weaving. Last year, I was waiting for some yarn I needed to finish a project that was on my loom. I couldn't weave anything, so I decided to wind a couple warps for upcoming projects. One of them was for the Family Dinner Napkins from the Fall 2025 edition of Handwoven Magazine. This is one of those 2-for-1 projects where you put one long warp on and weave two different types of items. In this case, napkins and towels. The warp is 16-2 cotton, and the weft for the towels is also 16-2 cotton, but 32, that's 30/2, linen for the napkins. The original pattern called for a 5 3/4 yard warp, and that would give me 4 napkins and 2 towels. I decided I wanted 4 napkins and 4 towels. Of course I did. So after some calculations, I came up with 9.3 yards. As you can see here, the warp is a series of colored stripes in more spring-like colors, if you ask me. I'm not sure why it was in the fall issue. Oh well. Those spring-like colors are alternated with natural. The weft uses similar colors in the linen, alternated with a natural linen color, and the spring-like colors are in random orders, each napkin being a different random order. Well, I finished the project that was on the loom and finally got around to putting the Family Dinner Napkins warp on. Warping over 9 yards of 16-2 cotton by yourself can take a lot of time, but I've developed a system that works well for both me and my loom, so it went fairly smoothly. Okay, you can see behind me I have the warp threaded through the heddles and the reed, and now I'm getting ready to do my tie-up. So the normal way that I do my tie-up is I do a walking treadle. So typically the treadles are set up in the pattern 1 through 6 in this case, and the treadling is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't like treadling that way because the treadles are very tight on this loom, and I don't want to move from right to left. I set my treadles up in a walking pattern. So I'll put all the odd treadles on the left, all the even treadles on the right. And that typically works perfectly. But it's always a good idea to check your treadling pattern before you go ahead and make something, make a setup like that. Because here is a perfect example. Let me show you. All right, so here I have my printed pattern, and you can see I've got my tie-up here and my treadling here. Now, if you notice, it has me treadling left, right, left. So I repeat those for the given number of times. So if I were to set this up with all my odds on one side and all my evens on the other, then I would be jumping from 1 to 6, which might be okay because I've got an odd and an even. But if I set this up with my treadles 1 through 6 all the way across, then I will still have a walking pattern. Now, it also just so happens that I typically set up my outside treadles. So you can see here, I typically set up like this treadle and this treadle, if I'm only using like 8 treadles, as my plain weave treadles. And I just leave those tied up. Well, if you notice here, it'll focus, here is my odd plain weave treadle. here is my even plain weave treadle. So this is my odd plain weave treadle that I already had set up, and this happens to be my even plain weave treadle that I already have set up. So I'm just going to set this up just like it is in the pattern. 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to skip these in the middle just because it is convenient. 4, 5, 6. And then I'm going to be treadling my left foot over here, my right foot over here, and I will be able to continue to keep my walking treadle. Okay, you can see I've got the plain weave cream here. The other thing that I wanted to point out is I made this little template, and hopefully you can see it. So this is just a piece of paper that's about 1 inch wide, and I marked off the different measurements for each section. So this is the length of my entire napkin down to here. And I can use this to quickly measure where I am, and if I need to, weave a little bit more. And so this will just sit off to the side and I can quickly reference it. But we're going to start with the first color. And for this first napkin, the first color is the orange. And I can already tell this is drying out a little bit. So we're going to do 2 picks, or I'm sorry, 2 repeats of 2 picks of plain weave. Now I ended my plain weave on this side, so I'm going to start from this side. And this is such fine thread, I am not splitting my tails. So we're just going to tuck that tail. And I have to be careful because this is 19 picks per inch, and that's really easy to, or if I beat a little too hard, I'm going to get more than 19 picks per inch. All right, so we're gonna do 1 more pick there, and then we're going to switch to 5-3. Now this, you can see, is picking up some different threads, and this will give me a hook. So we're going to do 5-3 twice. And then 5. I need to make sure that that gets in there. And then we're going to do 3-4. then move back to, this is not, okay, this is not right. And I can tell it's not right because I have these huge floats right here. So you can see this float right here. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. So I am going to stop. So I'm thinking that there's an error in the pattern. So if we look at our pattern here, you can see I never used treadle 2. Do it like this. Treadle 2 is never used. So I'm thinking that one of these 3s needs to be a 2. So I'm going to check and see if there is a correction to the pattern and come back later. All right, I was right. Obviously, it had to be a problem with the treadling. And when I went to the website for the magazine, Handwoven Magazine, I found that this treadle 3 here in the pattern should be treadle 2. So the pattern should be 5, 2, 5, 2, 5, and then 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, and then 5, 2, 5, 2, 5. So I am going to unweave this, and then we're going to weave it correctly. So you'll notice, hopefully you can see, there are these very long floats here. And so those should be corrected when we get to the correct treadling. So we're going to 3, 5. So when you have to unweave, you have to wind this back onto the bobbin, and it's best not to do this business, because then you don't get even tension. So what I like to do is I pull it up out of the shuttle and I wind it by hand. This will give me the correct tension and hopefully alleviate any problems. So pop that back in there, and then we'll move on to unweaving some more. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to write this down of what this section right here, this 1 3/16 section. So I do 1, 6, 1, 6, 1, and then I do 5, 2, 5, 2, 5, and then 3, 4, 3, 4, 3. And then I do that 2 times. Then I'm going to do 5, 2, 5, 2, 5, and then 1, 6, 1, 6, 1. 30. Okay. 5, 10, 20, 25, 30, 35. That's 35 threads divided by 19. All right, that makes sense. 1 and 13/16. Okay. Now I'm going to do 3, 4, 3, 4, 3. And we're going to do 5, 2, 5, 2, 5, and then 1, 6, and oops, 6. I keep getting snagged on something over here. 6, there we go. 6, 1. All right, now I am at, so this does not go to, doesn't have 16th inches on it. All right, so I am very, very close. I beat a little too hard in this first section. And I think that's why I'm a little tiny bit short, but that's okay. Now, so we're going to cut this and switch to our cream. And this was A1. There you go. I have the cream right here. And then we're going to do 1 inch of plain weave in the cream. And because I ended on a 1 back there, we're going to start on a 6 here. And we will tuck our tail. And I am going to advance my warp a little bit. There. just gonna double check my beat. Yep, I am on track. Oops. Double check. Yes. 17. 18. So because we want the napkins to all be the same, that's the main reason for this little ruler. So I can line this up, and even though maybe this section is a little short, I kind of made it up in this section. So I am at my 1 inch mark. So we're gonna go ahead and cut this one. And then we start with our next color, which in this case is the garnet. I think that's what it's called. No, crabapple. None of the crab apples I ever had in my childhood were this red, but hey, when you make yarn, you can call it any color you like. Ah, there went my guide. So just as an aside, when I soaked this bobbin and got it wet, and then I took it out and put it on a towel to kind of sop up the extra water, this is what I ended up with. So you can see that this color is not 100% color fast. Now I've got it in with white and these other pastel colors, and I don't want to have it bleed. So when I'm done with this, I'm going to use a product called Retain, and that will hopefully set the dye. And I will also use a color catcher in the wash, and that will hopefully catch any free-floating dye that comes off and won't settle onto my cream color on this. That's the hope. All right, so the next section is one. weavers, we are finally done with these napkins. And I ended up weaving the entire warp that I had put on, and I think I put on about 9 yards. So I wove them all in napkins because I wanted a lot of napkins. The color sequences were random, somewhat random. I used the 6 sequences that they had in the magazine and the pattern, and then for the remainder of them, which I think I got 11 napkins total. But for the remainder, I just kind of made up my own random colors, which I really like. I like that idea. So let's take a look. Now, before we take a look at these, I like them, but I also would have preferred that the floats be more, I'm not sure. I guess I had a preconceived notion that this was a huck lace pattern, and it's not. It is a plain weave with floats in a specific spot that kind of make up a pattern. And I guess when I saw them coming out, I was like, oh, okay, those yeah, sure, I like them. I would have preferred, I like something a little more organized, and these felt a little less organized for my personal taste. That is not to say that I hate them, but I'm also going to say that I do not like the size. They're way too big for a napkin, in my opinion. These ended up being 19.5 inches wide by 22 inches long after hemming. And I think, I'll have to go back to the pattern, but I think that that is actually how big they were supposed to be. They're huge, right? So if you have a table that they're nice for a napkin, right? You can wipe your face and put it on your lap. But they're kind of big. And I like folding a napkin so that, how do I normally fold a napkin? So these I would probably fold in thirds this way, and then in quarters that way, and then that would be your napkin. But it's really big. So I don't know. I tried playing with hemming them maybe a little differently, and I didn't like it. So it is what it is though. But I really like the colorway. And I like the weight. These are remind you they're 16-2 cotton for the warp and a 32 linen for the weft. So they're nice and lightweight, but because of the cotton and the linen content, they're going to be very absorbent. So this is one of the colors, and I'll show you the floats. Okay, let's see if we can do this. So you can see the floats here. They're not really, they're a float. They're not a huck lace pattern. Because if it was a huck lace, it would be the opposite on the back. The floats would go weft-wise, and they don't. So you can see here that it's tied down. Oops, I can't really get it. There we go. Let's see if I can do that. So you can see they're kind of tied down, and they're not really floats on the back. They're a little bit of a float, but not really. So the back is definitely the back. And there's the front. So that's why I said I would have preferred huck lace. Maybe I'll do these. Well, I have an idea. So this pattern called for doing 4 napkins, and I had increased it to 4 towels. You reslay and then you do the towels in the 16-2 cotton in the warp and the weft. I didn't do that. I ended up doing the entire run with napkins. But if I put another warp on with these colors and the 16-2 cotton, and then I did a huck lace instead of these floats, I like that idea. I'm gonna have to play with that. Okay, so let's see here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yes, I got 11 napkins out of it. And you can see, so we'll just do this. All right. So here you could see the warp is the same. So we have the dark green and then the light green and then the orange, but the weft colors are different. So kind of randomized. 2 oranges here by chance, but down here I've got blue and here I've got the light green. Up here looks like I've got some blues. So the here and here are different, and so every single one is a little bit different. And if I did towels with the same warp and the same randomness of the same weft colors, granted it would be in the 16-2 cotton, not the 32 linen, but the colors are very similar, they would go with these napkins also. So I'm gonna put these napkins on my Etsy shop, and I think I'll put them up there in pairs. And if you want to go on there and purchase them, you can. And maybe I'll keep a couple for myself. And yeah, I had fun weaving these. It was an easy weave. It took me a long time to get this project done. I think I started in mid-January. It is now early March. And the reason for it taking so long is, number one, I'm a bookkeeper. That's my real job. And it was year end and quarter end, so I was working like the dickens. And I had surgery at the end of January. And then I was recuperating, and then I had a lot of doctor's visits and appointments and tests in February. So here we are in March. So I'm gonna go ahead and post these on Etsy and start designing those towels. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching me weave these videos, and happy weaving. And there goes my phone.